Oh my god, it's so easy to catch the car too. I mean, it's like that's like a fucking, that's like a battle pass car.
Coming up on 78th Avenue, actually turn south, 78th Avenue.
Here we go. There they are.
Committed retail theft. I'm going back to one of these, figured out. Can we figure out what they stole?
Yeah. I mean, this is smart for them to be in a residential area. Another officer across the... Ooh. It went around them. Yep. Right. Yeah, they went around, because they went around, you said this year went around. See how that happened?
Yeah, Gray, still going northbound 70.
Can't we use a quick beam in this situation?
The park over there.
Just like zap them?
I'm just following. I'm not even pursuing. Well, it's going to go off the dead end and get it off of 90th Street.
Uh-oh. This guy doesn't look fuck, huh?
This is a dead end and the suspects have nowhere to go. Even though the pursuit has been terminated, this officer isn't giving up.
Oh, man.
The sign said no outlet.
Imagine you're running away and you turn the wrong direction.
No outlet.
Oh, shit.
Terminated. This officer isn't giving up yet.
Man. That's bad.
Fucking adapter. Adapter.
Where did they go?
What the fuck? Oh, man, they're behind you. They're probably behind you. Yeah,
Oh
they're
my
in there.
goodness,
Yeah.
North Apple. 6. Get out of the car! Got a female took off southbound from here.
Get the ass. Get the ass.
Yeah, affirmative. What's she wearing? What's she?
It's smart.
What was she wearing? What was she wearing? Wearing dark clothing. They just start setting up the perimeter. Car's unoccupied.
Uh-oh. So it's only one person? Like, at this point, bro, like, you have to know they're gonna get you. And also, all of this over CBS. Like, you're trying to catch a felony for CBS. Jesus, that's bad. Oh, wow.
2 female blacks, both shoulder-length hair, approximately 20, 25 years old. Yeah, I met. They ran the north from here. Alright, so can you guys try to figure out what was stolen, and I'll come back. I'm gonna go help them search. Okay. Sounds good. Alright, thanks guys. It was a car chase and they ditched the car here. So it was 2 black females.
I turned around because she zoomed in. She zoomed in and I'm like, oh my god. So I ran inside. I closed the door. I closed the garage door. So I don't think she, like, I'm looking at my phone. I don't think she went in there. Do you want to go in and open it? I'm just scared to do that. To see if she went in the garage. Yeah, because I closed it. I don't know where she ran.
W police officer checking the house for her.
Police? No, I don't know. She's not in here.
She's not going to go there, right?
I'm gonna go back to the car. Make sure they don't come back. Sorry, I got dirt all over your house.
Is that a stolen car?
Maybe. They use it in a retail theft.
A patrolling officer on the lookout in the area finds a female running on foot through the neighborhood.
Why would you do this, dude? Like, if it was me, like, and I got caught like this, what I would do is I would just find some hole to hide in. I would find a fucking hole to hide in, and I would just fucking camp there for like 5 hours. I would camp there for 5 hours, and then I would get up, and I would just leave. That dogs, they're not going to bring in the dogs for CVS. They're not going to do it, bro. It's not going to happen. There's not going to be any dogs.
Can I get the description one more time? They won't have like gray hoodie, gray sweats, and pink floppers or something.
The CVS is 3 stars. It's like 2. It's 2 stars at most. Come here, bitch.
You're done running.
What you doing? What you doing, bitch?
You're done running.
What you doing? What are you doing? Blue drop. Take a gobble.
Stop running right now. You're done.
You can't go over that.
What the hell was that?
Let's go home first. Get on the ground. Stop it.
Was that the opposite? That said the...
Stop.
What the hell was that? She was...
It's 2 stars at most. Come here, bitch.
You're done running.
What you doing? What you doing, bitch?
You're done running.
What you doing? What are you doing? Blue drop. Take a gobble.
Stop running right now. You're
You
done.
can't go over that.
What the hell was that?
Back.
Let's go home first. Get on the ground. Stop it.
Damn. Damn.
Stop. Come on.
Gotcha,
Stop.
bitch.
I'm gonna tease you.
What am I doing?
What did I do wrong? What did I do? I didn't do anything.
What did I do?
I didn't do anything.
Stop.
Maybe she thought it was lax. And she was doing the shit. I don't know. That's the way you said, what the hell was that?
Gotcha, bitch.
No hesitation, like she was still mid-fall. What the hell was that? Like, what is this?
They do need to have like oh my, never mind.
Let go of my fingers. You're done, right? Stop.
What did I do, sir?
It's simple retail theft. Stop fighting us.
Out of where?
Out of where? Alright. Yeah. They're so stupid. Why do they do this? Everybody knows what you did.
It's not so good. Can I get please guys to let them know my baby's down, please?
So we're gonna hang out and fuck her, and then we'll get you.
Oh my
God.
god. How do they all have
She looks
kids?
so young.
Jesus
So
Christ,
young.
guys.
I know.
You were gonna say a cattle prod? Like I would have as soon as they start causing problems.
That's what
I
Robbie
would have,
sometimes
like,
he'll think like when we see
imagine
ones
like
like
a lightsaber, but it just zaps you.
Philippine
and
or
it just, like,
Vietnamese women, they're smaller, usually shorter, smaller, and look younger. I know he thought it was kids, and so I was like, no, those are probably like 30, 40-year-old women. He took a closer look. He's like, oh. I know it's happened a few times, and I've explained to him
I
that.
just saw it coming off of 78th Ave. So, hey, young lady.
Right, they tend to be more petite and younger
No
looking
more
for
flying
whatever.
kicks into the fence. You're gonna hurt yourself over nonsense. It's nonsense, alright? It's a retail theft. They don't care about that here. You gotta chill out. Chill.
Right, but you can start to learn once you learn that. He has too. He goes, oh, and he's like, saw him taking a closer look and kind of looking at
It's always the same people. It's never obviously I'm sure sometimes it is. But with a lot of these people, it's always the same people, the same 2% of the population causing problems.
That's a hard
over
one. She
and
looks like
over
she's my
and over.
goodness. Like she
If we
could be
just took all
12 or
these people and we just
13.
put them in jail, everything would be better.
If I had to guess on that right there, yeah, that's could be a 10-year-old, right?
Yeah. All right. I see it's this motherfucking
Yeah, and like the
thing.
teeth too
It
throws me
is,
off.
but it just doesn't
you know?
matter. They gotta have some more AC coming through here. There's not enough AC coming in through the house. It's way too fucking hot. I don't mind it being 90 degrees in my room. It is what it is. I mean, like, what,
Yeah,
what
if
do
I
you
had
mean?
to give a final
Like, my
guess,
ancestors dealt
I'd
with
say
that.
that's
Like, you didn't have air
16.
conditioning until like
It's
100
at the
years ago.
most, I'd say 16
So, like,
years old.
I don't know. I figured it out. I'm not. Who gives a fuck? Let's move on. I'm moving like a year.
Yeah, once you start seeing in motion and talking to him, you can start seeing, oh yeah, that could be 25 years.
I just don't want you to get hurt. Flying kicks into the face? Come on, you're a grown woman. That's going to hurt you.
Right, but just based off of that picture, right? But then once you see him in motion and talking, oh, okay.
Chill out a little bit. It's all right. We're gonna work with you. Probation or not. It's not worth getting hurt. It's not worth getting hurt over. That's crazy.
Why were you out of the house? If you were on house arrest, then why were you out of the house?
What are you gonna guess?
Why
You
would
say
you be
23?
out of the house if you're
What
on
do you
house
guess?
arrest, stealing things from CVS? Like, these are the people I would put a shot collar on. I would put a shot collar on.
It's actually
the
good
police
classes
department,
to
like, I give
have
them a
just
remote.
for whatever.
Yeah, one button is red.
We used to do that too with memory things, and like having to remember
Just one button, that's all you need.
faces and shapes.
Right? It's a simple retail theft.
Yeah, some IQ tests do that, but we used to do them just for fun, for memory tests and
That
stuff.
way everybody can see it.
Silver car just picked her up off of 31st Street. Black driver.
An officer initiates a traffic stop.
Right, but it would be good.
Surprisingly, the driver
Just
pulls
they're
over.
good classes to have in general, and you start learning different ethnicities, skin colors. No, and that education is there and eliminates, racism, right?
She's
Right.
smart.
It
She tried
does.
to call an Uber
And
to
it
get
seems like they
away to
eliminated
do
a lot of that
have another
education
car.
back,
That's a smart
remember, in the
idea.
90s, like 94-ish.
No, that's a good idea.
92, 93, 94-ish.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I like her.
Yeah, all of a sudden,
All right.
right, the music and art and all that got taken out. Some really good programs.
We believe you.
Yeah, that was around that time. Yeah, all the Jehovah's Witnesses started homeschooling, higher surveillance. Yeah, because remember, it was a few years before that. I think it was our 4th grade year. I think it was our 4th grade year, so that would have been, oh goodness, like 91, right?
Reports indicate the two females attempted to steal
Around
a
that
variety of
time.
household cleanings.
90, 91. It was a little bit before that. Remember, they were putting
As well as numerous boxes
video
of
cameras on tripods in the classrooms.
Anyone that was caught first was charged with
Some
retail theft
some
and
had
resisting
approved it
restraint.
for whatever
The female that was
reasons.
Second was the driver, and she had 4 active arrest warrants at the time of the incident.
Yeah, remember Mr. Dyer? He was sitting in the back of the classroom right next to the camera on the tripod.
The third warrant was for failure to
Miss
appear
Dawson,
before the charge.
I think,
The fourth
was
for felony
our
neglect.
teacher. No, actually, Miss Dodge was substituting because Miss Dawson had left because she left the room crying. She's, I have had it. One of the boys threw a paper airplane and poked her in the eye. That was the final straw. Right, so I remember, yeah, she left. And then Miss Dodge was substituting. Do you remember that? And what happened? Do you remember? It was like 3rd grade. 4th grade, Mrs. Chandler. But then didn't the classrooms shift and move? Because then 5th grade was out in the trailer with Mr. Cullenberg. So what? Anybody from that era. I know our class was pretty small. But I know there are other people and adults that are from that area. I remember. No, a lot of the investigators and people who work with us, no, don't worry, it's okay. They're well aware and letting the others know. Do you remember in between? I'm trying to help you. Wait, do you remember what was going on around that time? With some other things too. Yeah, with that. Yeah, a lot of crazy stuff was going on. Yeah, he was actually, her son was in my class. Someone in this class is asking about Greta Smith. Yeah, she was killed in an accident. Her head was, taken off by the beam she went through. Do I have to be so graphic with my description? Well, I'm sorry. It makes it more exciting for the listener, they say. Sorry. Sometimes when people aren't listening, it gets their attention too, and then it's amazing how they totally miss sight of what we're actually talking about, and it's all about how I'm being too gruesome and disrespectful. I know, just thank you. Classic example. Thank you so much for jumping in there. But yeah, anyway, she was killed in a pretty bad accident. I'm pretty sure she had been in the military, right? Yeah, she was married to Bill Smith there. And his son was in my class. Yeah, I remember actually, he was sitting in front of me in that classroom when we had Mrs. Dodge, because Miss Dawson left. Do I have the years mixed up? Was this 6th grade? Was it 6th grade? Well, that would maybe make more sense then. That would maybe make more sense. Someone else is helping. I don't know who it is. Are you from that class, or wouldn't tell me if you were? Probably. Well, you might. I don't know. Oh, it's funny. Well, it lets me know too, right? That, hey, yeah, that happened, because someone just said, hey, no, that was 6th grade, not 4th grade. So then the others listening go, oh, okay, so that's all true, and she just got corrected on the time frame. So doesn't make her a liar, it just means she's a little off. Oh, I'm a lot off, believe me. Oh, look at that. Yeah, they say she didn't take her seizure medication or something. I don't know. It was a pretty bad hill out there, the North Whitefield Super at that hill. You're going down over that hill. She had just dropped them off at school down at Whitefield, and then she went down over that hill by the Superette, and she crashed right through that house there on the left. Thank goodness nobody was home. Yeah, that was sad. Bill became a wicked bad alcoholic, and he sent the boys off to live with the grandparents down in Massachusetts. Wonder whatever happened to them. They were nice boys. She used to dress them up in tuxedos. For their picture day. Yeah, just for picture day, not for regular school days, but yeah, picture day. They'd show up with those tuxedos and ties and everything. So cute. Yeah, he became a wicked alcoholic, and people were complaining and wanting him kicked out of the town. He'd ride around drunk on his lawnmower. I thought it was funny. I know, I understand. I was a kid, as a kid you don't really get a lot of that stuff. But then it wasn't so funny. I think he's dead now, yeah. He had died. He got into a bad accident, and I think he died of cirrhosis of the liver. Well, yeah, because he had been in that car, I believe, that ran over a woman on the Divine Road. I think it's the Divine Road. Yeah, she had two nice boys too, huh? I think, was she in the military? Their dad had been in the military or something and had passed away. And then it was so cute because remember she had started dating one of the bus drivers. That was so cute. I know, because he had lived in, remember the little gingerbread house by the school? He was an awesome bus driver. I thought he was a really good bus driver, especially for such a rowdy bunch. Yeah, they had started dating, yeah. But she was walking the dogs, or the dog, one of their dogs. And yeah, he was in a car with some other people and they went around a corner and ran her over, and she and the dog got mangled underneath the car. Was anybody ever charged in that? I don't think so, no. Well, yeah, because they all ran from the scene, yeah. Hearsay. Yeah, it was crazy time. What's that? Yeah, that was around the time too. Yeah, so little CJ Goodman was shot. She was a year below me, yeah, in school. So that would have been, yeah, it was junior high years, yeah. Her brother shot her with a shotgun. So he was, yeah, so Old Man Stickney found him out in the woods was the story some told. I don't really know, so. But the story was, yeah, that Old Man Stickney found him out in the woods, but he couldn't reach the trigger. Shotgun barrel's pretty long. So after he shot his sister. I don't know, you know. It's a lot of stories with stuff like that. It was sad. Yeah, that was around the time, yeah, people complaining about the drug trafficking and child molesters. Who are the victims? Is that Captain? You got it, matey. Anything you want, you got it. Anything you need, you got it. Anything at all, you got it, baby. I'm glad. Well, you know, I was like an alcoholic by the time I was 14, 15. Had a pretty bad accident myself by the time was I 15, 16? Yeah, I crashed my mate's car pretty bad. Pretty intoxicated. Mom said it was normal for out there. I wanted to be there. I wasn't putting the blame on anyone, I was just telling a story. Run, 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 run away. Run, 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 run away. Yeah, it was nice talking to you. Oh, they left a dog out in the cold. You can understand where that kind of talk comes from. We love dogs, cats, birds. We love duck. We like to eat duck. Duck is yummy. Especially the healthy ones, you know. You don't want a sick duck. It can make you sick. Even its poop can make you sick.
People always ask me how we manage a team that's spread all over the world.
And our dear friend Elijah Magnier is here with us. Welcome back, Elijah.
Hello, Nima, and thank you for inviting me.
I want to start with what has happened last night. The U.S. attack on Iran and the Iranian response. And what was different last night, that the United States intensified the attacks. The attacks were somehow more intensive compared to the last two attacks in the aftermath of the signing of the MOU. Then Iranian response, which was they added Qatari target to their list. Last night they attacked Qatar after weeks. Qatar was not part of the Iranian targets since the ceasefire was announced between Iran and the United States. So that was one of the main changes last night. And today we've learned that they attacked they targeted a military, a radar in Qatar. So what's going on right now in Iran? The funeral was going on yesterday in Iraq, in Karbala and in Najaf. Today it's in Iran. The new footages are coming out. Here is Mashhad, for example, and you see millions of people are on streets for the last step of the funeral procession of the late Supreme Leader of Iran. This is the atmosphere in Iran. And then just 30 minutes ago, Elijah, we've learned that new explosions are happening in Bushehr and Bandar Abbas in the southern part of Iran and Shiraz. There is no confirmation that it was some sort of attack on Iran. And the other point that is happening right now is Iranian attack on Jordan. And the ballistic missiles, they attacked Muaffaq Salti Air Base in eastern Jordan. And we have some photos coming out here. For example, is one of them. It shows the ballistic missile, the Iranian launching ballistic missiles, and this is the footage that just came out, and it shows they were using these ballistic missiles were fired from Khomeini, which is another city in Iran. The footage, and they're launching missiles from the southern part of Iran, from Shiraz, from Tabriz, from the northern part of Iran. It's the northwest of Iran, Tabriz, and they're hitting the targets in Jordan. So far, initial reports, it shows that a direct hit against an industrial complex in Jordan. So the other point is the United States has announced they may put blockade back on the Strait of Hormuz, on the Persian Gulf, and Iran overnight they shipped out 10 million barrels of oil overnight, last night, immediately, and it was reported by Tanker Tracker. This is the situation right now. Iran is attacking Jordan and American bases in the region, and it seems in the coming hours we're going to see some sort of new confrontations, maybe the United States attacking Iran again. Elijah, go ahead and your understanding of what's going on with the so-called MOU.
Okay, thank you. So these attacks are not surprising, really, and the MOU not implemented is also not a surprise. There are new elements that happened yesterday that are important to highlight. First is the location of the target, and second, why all this is happening, because people need to understand what lies behind all this exchange of missiles and attacks. The first one comes from the Americans, who attacked for the first time the railway between Tehran and Mashhad. This attack is significant because it shows a very personal attack. It is not strategic. It is the day of the funeral when everybody was going toward Mashhad and wanted to participate to the funeral of the assassinated Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei. So in a way, the view of so many people talking about millions in Iran and in Iraq on different stage participating to this funeral, and Donald Trump very surprised of this view of the people supporting the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei and standing united against the Americans and the Israelis, when Donald Trump sent kind of a message also to Benjamin Netanyahu saying, well, this is not what you promised, and you spoke about that the Iranian system will fall within 3-4 days. People are fed up of this ruling system. By bombing the railway that going to Mashhad is a kind of personal attack rather than strategic attack. Secondly, the attack on the railway between Iran and China, that the supply line was attacked, and for the first time we see the Sistan Baluchistan in the south that is also one of the target, Shahabar harbor that is run partially by the Indian and by India, and also that serves mainly India and Pakistan and the rest of Asia. That is a new. So these things are a little bit of a point to stand and stop on, saying actually the Americans are starting to bomb civilian targets, and they no longer have military targets, so they went against the civilians. And this targeting civilian infrastructure is a war crime and crime against humanity, but this is not what Donald Trump is most concerned about. Now let's see the Iranian retaliation. Iran retaliated against US assets in Kuwait and Bahrain, but also in Jordan. And this is where we move to why all this is happening. Actually, it is not only about paragraph 5 of the MOU. Paragraph 5 is very clear to the Iranian. It is interpreted completely differently by the Americans. And the paragraph 5 gives the Iranian the possibility to manage the Strait of Hormuz for 60 days and to talk to the Omani about it, which Iran is doing. But there is no mention of CENTCOM or the American intervention. Therefore, the Americans are not intervening in the Strait of Hormuz because they are included in the MOU in this particular affair. On the contrary, and here we understand why, and people need to know, it is about hegemony and control. In fact, the Strait of Hormuz is the only point Iran has as a leverage to stop the war in Iran, to stop the war in Lebanon and in the region, to release all the frozen asset, to force the Americans to pay compensation for the war, and to lift all the sanctions. Without the Strait of Hormuz, Iran can be totally ignored, as all the Americans and the Europeans did for so many decades, and then increase sanction year after year or month after month, and every new US president start with the new sanctions on Iran. So that is a leverage, and what the Americans are doing is actually they were not honest in the dialogue with the Iranians by signing the MOU. We saw Donald Trump signing the MOU in Paris, in Versailles, during a dinner with the G7 leaders. So he was signing, either he didn't know the details, but he was willingly signing it. He was not forced to sign it. Now, having signed the MOU with an objective to solve the problem with Iran is one thing, which is highly unlikely, it seems, and to only open the Strait of Hormuz and bring down the price of oil so he can refill the 400 million barrels, more or less, that he has used during this conflict in his strategic reserves, because the strategic reserves are more or less above 700 million barrels, and Donald Trump told us that they were only a few weeks away from depleting the entire reserve, and we know from leakage in the media that the Americans had from 700 plus, they had a 331 million barrel only, which means a serious problem for the US and for the rest of the world when there is no reserve oil. So what Donald Trump is doing is to bringing down the price of oil to make sure that he can compensate the millions of barrels he has used during the conflict, bring down the price, and then start again telling Iran, you cannot control the MOU. But he's not telling it just by vocally saying it. No. What happened exactly is the Iranians, according to the MOU, said, we are in control of the Strait of Hormuz. We're going to allow any ship to come in and out, not the Israelis, of course, and the Americans, but you have to come by us. This is what Iran said. And you cannot go by Omani waters, because there is a place in the Strait of Hormuz that is more or less 23 miles, and the international law says that 12 miles from the shore of each country belong to the country in question, which means Oman and Iran each one has 12 miles under their full sovereignty, where there is a 1 mile that overlap in both sides, or half a mile, let's say, on both sides. Nevertheless, the Omani and the Iranians were talking about how to organize that, and they have agreed that instead of asking fees that Omani rejected completely, they will ask for services at the end of the 60 days, where there is already a company offering these services and being paid by all the shipping companies and ship owners for various services that they offer to the ship crossing the Strait of Hormuz. Iran and Oman agreed to share these benefits, and they would run the Strait of Hormuz in this way, but after the 60 days. Why is that? Because first, there is no trust whatsoever with the Americans, which proved that they are not in respect of the paragraph 1 of ending the war. Secondly, because the war is still ongoing, and we have seen what happened yesterday, last night, and the night before. So the war is not over. So for Iran, it doesn't want to let go of the Strait of Hormuz unless the war is over. The Americans asked all the ships to coordinate with the US Navy to cross from the Omani side, and they put pressure on Oman to say nothing. But what happened is ship owners and insurance companies are afraid, and they are kind of a coward because of their money, which they are rightly so, because they don't want to risk the price of a ship and for the shipping company to increase the insurance, but then having to pay a large amount for any damage. So coward in a positive way, which means they don't really have the courage to go and challenge Iran, because they don't have to. There is a safe passage. They can go on both sides of the Larak Iranian island, respond to the Iranian, and just cross for free for the 60 days since the signature of the MOU. Therefore, the Americans could not put pressure on the ship owners and on the insurance company. So they went to the countries. They went to Oman, to Saudi Arabia, to the Emirates, and to Qatar. Qatar provided an LNG ship because gas is still very expensive in the world, still 70% above the normal price, because gas reacts differently from oil. And Saudi Arabia and the Emiratis, they all provided each one a tanker. And they asked these tankers to cross from the Omani side without coordinating with the Iranians. So Iran did not claim the responsibility, but obviously they were attacked by drones while violating the call of the Iranian to abide by the rules like everybody else and cross for free. And this is where the Americans retaliated. And they retaliated because they want to remain in control of the Strait of Hormuz, and they don't want Iran to control it, which is the mentality of colonialism, that the Americans, they are self-appointed the custodian of the Strait of Hormuz, and they cannot accept that Iran will take this card away. This is why what we have seen in the last 48 hours, we're going to see it again and again, intensively superior or inferior, or the return of a few days of exchange of missiles, but not something that Donald Trump will call a war, because he doesn't want to go to the Congress and ask for a permission. He would call it a special operation, he will call it defending the allies, he will call it whatever he wants, but these are going to be the exchanges between both countries unless they sit down and they review the MOU and the Americans accept this explanation, which is highly unlikely, because America will never release all the Iranian money, will never give Iran back $300 billion as a compensation and lift all the sanctions. Already Article 4 has been violated, and the Americans are not releasing the frozen asset as they promised. First they said 24 billion, then they said 12, and then they said 3, and now they are saying 6. However, they are telling the Iranian that they need to buy a destroyer from America, and they're putting conditions on the smaller amount they are releasing. This is where we are at today.
Yeah. Last night they attacked the Sirik area and the commercial and fishing pier in Sirik, and they killed. It was reported by IRIB, the Iranian state media, that three people were killed and 15 injured in that attack. It's not right. It's just not something that the United States is doing that in South America. It's not every time they're hitting these fishing boats and killing more people. But here is the other part of the new reports is that the sirens right now, as we talk, sound at Victoria base near Baghdad, the international airport in Baghdad, and at the same time Iran is bombing the Kurds and the US base in Iraqi Kurdistan. This is part of the problem, and it was always one of the main concerns on the part of Iranians that these Kurds from the Iraqi Kurdistan are going to do something there. That's why you see Iran attacking them again and again. So do you think that is there some sort of plan, in your opinion, for some sort of invasion and incursion from Iraq?
Purpose behind it, but then when they laugh about it,
of course no, they can't, because first
makes me
President Erdogan of Turkey stopped this attack a long time ago when the Americans sent the weapons to the Kurds, and the Americans said we want to change the regime in Iran, and then they said we want the missile program, the allies, etc. And then after that they pulled back and they said no, we don't want that. But Donald Trump was complaining about the arms sent to the Kurds. Now, arming the Kurds in the north is very dangerous for Iraq, for Turkey, and for Syria, because it tickles the idea of having a Kurdistan nation in Iran, in Iraq, in Turkey, and in Syria, joining together in one state in the middle of these countries, which is something that these countries will not accept. So empowering the Kurds in north of Iran is something that the Mossad and the CIA have been doing for a very long time. However, the Iranian army has not been engaged in any battle. So far, it is concentrated on these areas like Kurdistan in the northwest and Sistan Baluchistan in the southeast, because they are concerned about the possibility of the Americans to do something about these groups like Saif al-Adl, Jaish al-Adl, sorry, and like the Kurds in the north, to give them weapons and ask them to clash and create riots in the country, as they have done at the beginning of this year, in December 2025, January 2026.
Yeah. Here is, Elijah, the photo of let me just bring it up here, the photo that just came out. It shows the situation at the Banud dock in Asaluye, close to the Boucher, and after the attack, in the aftermath of the attack by the United States last night. And looking at Elijah, there's some reports, I don't know if it says that Donald Trump may want to use the borders with Iraq, with Afghanistan, with Pakistan, or do something on the ground. These are initial reports. I don't know if that's right or not, but the other report that just came out is that another U.S. warship has been attacked in the Persian Gulf again, just moments ago. You know what is so strange to me, Elijah? Yesterday it was said by the military advisor to the Supreme Leader of Iran that it wasn't all about tankers. It was the United States trying to use the warship in the Strait of Hormuz, which was avoided, somehow forced by Iranian forces, force them out of the strait. This is the way that the United States, this is one of the red lines for the Iranian side. and IRGC, they said that it was part of MOU. It was all about, as you see in the MOU, it's all about commercial vessels and ships. It's nothing military, no military, operation in the Strait of Hormuz. But you see, the United States is using the Navy to do that.
Yes, it is clear in the paragraph 5 of the MOU that once it is signed, Iran will make arrangement using its best effort for the safe passage of commercial vessels. It is really specifically stated as commercial vessels within the 60 days. And they said, again, from the Persian Gulf to the Sea of Oman, and vice versa. So they say the traffic of commercial vessels that is mentioned twice in paragraph 5 will start, and they will remove all the obstacles within 30 days. There are only 2 weeks so far since the signature happened. So it is the Iranian that allow only commercial vessels when the Americans are using their navy, their military vessels to cross the Strait of Hormuz in violation of the MOU. And then for the point that the Americans can attack and occupy islands, as Donald Trump always threatened. So first of all, the Americans are a very strong, powerful military country. However, occupying is one thing and sustaining the occupation is something completely different. If the Americans occupy an island, and they can easily do that with a lot of firepower, and then they send boots on the ground, how long they can remain in an area that can be bombed hundreds of kilometers away? They can't. This is why this is not a plan where the Americans can do. This is why they need proxy forces. And the only proxy forces powerful and strong enough to be organized and create something are the Kurds in the north that are not allowed due to regional pressure on Donald Trump. So this is where we are at. And yes, the Americans have no intention to honor the MOU. They even stopped the waivers on the Iranian oil yesterday. So they said that for 60 days they will allow Iran to sell its oils, and they didn't. Last night, 5 Iranian tankers left Iran full of oil because they knew the Americans can do something about that too, and they can suspend it completely, or they can put back the blockade. But again, if Donald Trump imposes the blockade on Iran, he will impose the blockade on the rest of the world through that Strait of Hormuz, and then we are back again to square one.
Yeah. It seems that the United States is somehow expanding its attacks because there's new reports that of explosions in Shiraz and Kerman. Kerman is to the eastern part of Iran.
Yes.
I think let's see what would happen. Elijah, when Donald Trump says yesterday, Axios reported that they're preparing for weeks or maybe months of war. What has changed so far with it was all about the American oil reserves? Are they prepared right now for that?
Well, look, it's from the American point of view, it's quite humiliating for the U.S. military to see them escorting 3 tankers that they've asked Saudi Arabia, the Qatari, and the Emirati to provide tankers under their responsibility and to take them across the Strait of Hormuz. And they didn't want to do that, but they were forced to do it. Now, for Iran to go and attack these ships because they did not respond and did not abide by the agreement, the MOU, how would the US behave toward these countries who have already lost a lot of confidence in the US and are discussing and questioning the presence of US bases, military bases in the Gulf? So if the US are not capable of defending ships that they are escorting, that is too much for the Americans to digest and accept. And this is why we've seen Donald Trump furious about the attack because that hit his ego and the hegemony of the US worldwide. Iran is challenging the US Navy and hitting these tankers. That's not something Donald Trump can digest. This is why he has reacted and will react harshly. Donald Trump wants a safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz, not via the Iranians, via the Omani. He can exert pressure on the Omani, do whatever he wants, and he wants the Iranian out of the equation. Iran is not going to allow that. If Donald Trump bombs Iran every single day, Iran will not allow a safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz without being under the Iranian control. That is very clear. Donald Trump can jump on his head, but the Iranians will not let go of the only card they have to put pressure on Donald Trump to recover their money, to lift the sanctions, and to make him pay for the compensation, and to stop the war in Lebanon. Without the Strait of Hormuz, Iran has no leverage.
Looking at the way that Saudi Arabia and Qatar are behaving, Elijah, on one side you see they're communicating with Iranians, on the other hand you see they're somehow cooperating with the United States in the strait, because those 5 tankers that were hit on Tuesday were from UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. So why are they doing this? They know what would be the result. Is that because of the pure pressure coming from Washington?
Oh yeah, yes. The Gulf countries understood that Iran is a regional power. It has survived the attack of 2 nuclear powers, Israel and the United States, who tried their best to defeat Iran. But Iran's victory is by holding its ground and not being defeated, and not allowing the Israelis and the Americans to fulfill their objectives. That is Iran's victory. Now that victory is very dangerous for the US hegemony in the area. If Iran is allowed to register victory on all fronts, force the Americans to lift the sanctions, and recover its assets that are frozen, and also impose the compensation for war, then the Americans are saying, well, the Iranians are more powerful than what we thought, and we cannot impose on Iran any of our objectives. Therefore, Iran will be the dominant force in the region. This is not something that the Americans are happy to do, and this is not something that the Arab countries are happy to do. However, if the Arab country can change this element, allowing the Americans to do it, they would be extremely happy. But if the Americans will not do it, the Arabs will not go and confront Iran. They can't. There are Iranians with 91, 92 million people capable of withstanding attacks from Israel and the United States, and the Arabs will do nothing to Iran. They will be destroyed. At least the water, the electricity, the oil and gas structure, everything the Iranian can destroy, all of that. And this is why they will have to deal with the Iranians, only because they cannot defeat them.
Elijah, a new update from the Iranian media, Mer News, it says that the attacks that were reported in Shiraz and explosions in Shiraz are false. There was no attack in Shiraz, which is significant, because during the war, if you remember, during the 40 days of war, the attacks in the eastern part of Iran have never happened. We have basically all of the attacks were in the western part of Iran.
Yes.
And right now it's reporting that Kerman or Shiraz there's some sort of explosion. It was some sort of surprise for me. And another thing, Elijah, is the United States is trying to hit the same targets over and over. I don't know why is that happening. And because after all, when you see the government in Iran looking at what the United States is trying to do, it's not that much of pressure to put on Iranians if you attack some points, because right now in Syria they attack more than 10 times in Syria area. The same targets, by the way.
Yeah, it's something I'm very familiar with. Up to 2006, the war between the Israelis and Hezbollah in Lebanon, when the Israelis, after 1 week of bombardment, returned to the same objective. The answer is very simple. It's because they have exhausted all the bank of objectives and they don't have any more objectives. So this is why they return to bomb exactly the same locations, or they add to that, like Donald Trump is doing now, civilian infrastructure. And during the war he did already attack and bomb a civilian bridge under construction, which is a violation of international law, and it's a war crime for a simple reason, that normally when two states are at war, one could argue that this bridge is used for military purposes, and this is where this country can get away with it. However, a bridge under construction and not used for civilian purposes, so the attacker cannot get away with it. Today, they attacked the railway and they attacked another bridge, but they can argue that these two were used to go to the location where they are making ballistic missiles, etc., and they were of double usage. So when they start attacking these civilian location, it means they have no other objectives, but now they want really to deepen the destruction in Iran. That's it. There is no strategic game.
The pursuing officers deliberately crashing into two police cars with officers
Here is again, Elijah, that it seems that the new attacks are going from Hormuzgan and they're attacking something in the Strait of Hormuz. But the latest report is that nothing is happening in the Strait of Hormuz, considering the passages of the vessels or ships or these sort of tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. So basically it's closed right now because of the problem that is happening, because of the firing on both sides. And
the confrontation escalated. Ramirez again
Elijah, when you look at the targets, as I mentioned, there is no report since the ceasefire was announced that Iran would attack Qatar. But last night it was reported that some of these refueling tankers that are, the United States is using many of these refueling tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, in the Persian Gulf, to refuel the fighter jets that are coming to hit the targets. They're coming from Qatar and Tel Aviv, from Israel. That was mentioned in the news last night. That was one of the main reasons for Iranian attack on Qatar. I don't know if the communication, you mentioned how the United States is putting pressure on Saudi Arabia and Qatar. How is that? Do you think that as escalation is happening, is Iran going to get back to attack GCC countries altogether?
Of course. Yes, of course, because as the Americans are deepening the damage in Iran, the Iranians want everybody to share the damage, and Iran wants all the Gulf countries to join their effort to put pressure on the Americans to stop this war. As long as this war continues and there is no stability, nobody is going to live in a stable country. The Iranians will not accept that, because if the war doesn't stop in Iran, it will not stop anywhere in the Gulf country. So it will continue, of course, because the Iranians want their involvement, because they are the one who brought the Americans to their homes, and they are the one who allowed America to establish military bases in Bahrain, in Kuwait, in the Emirates, in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar. So they ask them to be responsible for their acts and then to question why they would keep the Americans in Iran, in the Middle East and West Asia. There is no reason, because the Americans are bringing destruction. Are you happy with that? Then keep them. You're not happy with that? Find a way to kick them out.
another wave of Iranian ballistic missiles are, Iran just hit toward Jordan, and sirens are currently sounding in Jordan. What is, Elijah, the importance of Jordan after, all of these bases in GCC countries being destroyed by Iranians? Basically, they're not using those bases, but Jordan and Israel are the main bases for the American attacks, it seems.
Because they are the main base for all the interception missile systems. They are the main base for most of the assets in Jordan and in Israel of the Americans and the Israelis. This is where they are deployed, and this is where the attack happened against Iran. And that is the reason why Iran is attacking the Jordanian bases.
One of the American fighters just caught fire in Greece, and the footage just came out. Let me bring it up here. Yeah, I don't know what is the reason, but the footage just came out from. Let me just. Here is. Yeah, it seems that it's not working. Yeah, I'm gonna bring that up, Elijah. But Greece is so important as well. I've mentioned Jordan and Israel. They're using Greece and their bases in Greece. If they want to get back to the war, they're gonna use Jordan, Israel, Greece, and I would assume Diego Garcia Air Base.
And Cyprus and Iraq.
Yeah, and Cyprus and Iraq. Iraq was under attack just before coming. Yesterday we didn't have any sort of attack because the funeral was happening in Iraq with all of that complexity for the United States.
Yes.
So what is your understanding if they try to do the full attack? Are they going to use Diego Garcia again, or because of the distance it's going to be?
Well, so far the Americans show that they're not really reluctant to start again the war. This time Donald Trump needs to ask the approval of the Congress, and he cannot conduct special operation, meaning that whenever the US consider it's time to attack Iran, to put it back online according to the US understanding, so that is feasible anytime without the Congress approval. This is why going to a full-out war is highly unlikely these days, unless the negotiation of the MOU reaches a stalemate, and where there's no way the Iranian will let go of any of the point tackled in the MOU.
Here's the footage, Elijah, of the American fighter jet F-16 caught fire in Greece.
Yeah, good picture. Very visible.
Elijah, I think the whole case of Lebanon is because yesterday afternoon it was announced by Iranian foreign minister that without Lebanon there would be no deal with the United States before the American attack coming. It was it was on Tuesday afternoon he announced that before the American attack happened. That night they hit Iranians in the southern part, but before that Iran announced that there would be no deal without the case of Lebanon. What has changed? Looking at the MOU, in my opinion, there was no achievement with the MOU geopolitically. I'm not talking about economically. Economically, they could achieve something, both sides. In terms of the oil and gas energy, the United States needed that, and the price of oil dropped somehow. But geopolitically, nothing has changed as an outcome of the MOU.
Yes, nothing has changed. And the Americans so far did not fulfill any of all the paragraphs of the MOU, including paragraph 1 regarding Lebanon and the end of the war. So there is no end of the war with Iran, therefore there is no end of the war in Lebanon. Israel continue bombing Lebanon, and in particular the area around Nabati in the south of Lebanon, Nabati al-Fawqa, the higher part, because of their insistence to occupy the hills of Ali Tahir. Not one hill, but several hills. Because they understand there are military facilities under that area. They know only few entries, they don't know all the entries, and they think they did not degrade that facility and they want it back under their control desperately.
Yeah, I talked with Laith Marouf, who is in Beirut. He said that Ali Tahir, that fortress, is so important for Hezbollah. If it takes them to send all of their forces to defend it, they're gonna send Hezbollah gonna send all of the forces because it's so important strategically for Lebanon and for Hezbollah. If they take Ali Tahir, that would be a huge loss for Hezbollah. What is your understanding of that?
I don't see it in this way because Hezbollah has changed tactic. It is no longer concerned about the geography. That was in the past. After November 2024, with Sheikh Naim Qasim as the Secretary General, the understanding of the resistance has changed. Well, actually, it has returned to the 1980s, where the resistance is not concerned about occupying a territory, freeing it from the occupier, and then being in control of it. No. The resistance doesn't want to control anything. The resistance wants to inflict damage on the enemy and make sure that the presence of the enemy is highly costly on the Israelis. And they can do that very easily with Ali Tahir. They don't need to bring more troops because the Americans and the Israelis are looking very carefully and very meticulously to anything that's happening around all the hills of Ali Tahir. It's a very strategic point, but already the Israelis have taken the buffer castle in Al-Shukaif, and that's also high and overlooking Ali Tahir Hills, and Hezbollah did not really maintain a position in saying you will not occupy it and then lose hundreds of men just to keep the ground. This is not the objective. The objective is allow the Israelis to reach wherever they want and just study their effective, inflict pain on them and leave them there. On the contrary, the more expanded the Israeli forces are in the south of Lebanon, the better it is, because then there would be sitting ducks for the resistance and they will have a very variety of choices all over the south of Lebanon. So I don't think Ali Tahir is not unimportant, but it is not really essential, and Hezbollah will not defend it at the cost of keeping it and preventing Israel. Israel is a classical army with drones, with jets, and the way the Israelis are using their bombs is astonishing. I spoke to people in the south of Lebanon, for example. They discovered one member of Hezbollah in one villa in the south of Lebanon. They destroy the entire villa and they call jets, they don't call drones. Drones discover them and then they call jet really to destroy everything, to make sure, like it happened to many cases, in many cases where there were only pieces left of the militant that held its ground in the same location despite the Israeli bombing. This is why the number of Hezbollah in one location has been significantly reduced, and the defense of a position has been really altered into inflict the large damage on the enemy is much better than holding the ground in one area.
Elijah, one of our audience is asking you, did Erdogan trade Jolani and Hezbollah for F-35 yesterday?
He doesn't need to trade Jolani because Jolani is very happy to respond to Erdogan, but Erdogan giving away Hezbollah to Jolani, if you want me I can answer that. First, Erdogan doesn't have the control over Hezbollah. Second, it is in the advantage of Erdogan to show the American that he is on their side and to get the engine of the F-16 that is lacking to his Air Force and the F-35 that Joe Biden denied delivery. However, it is also in the advantage of Erdogan to make sure that Hezbollah is not defeated. Otherwise, Benjamin Netanyahu has already set the target, saying the next target is the Sunni, the new Sunni danger, and he said specifically Turkey, Qatar, and Pakistan. So yes, Erdogan is a trader. He has traded in the past Syria and agreed with the Russian to give it away to Julani, to Ahmed al-Shara, Abu Muhammad al-Julani, but to give up on Hezbollah, I don't think Syria is capable of confronting Hezbollah. This kind of Syria that tried in the past, they've tasted the bullet of Hezbollah for many years in Syria, and I don't think they will go back to Lebanon and attack Hezbollah. They have supporters in Tripoli, hence the visit of the Syrian Foreign Minister Shibani to Tripoli to show the solidarity of the people there who are in support of Ahmed al-Shara. However, this is not enough to start a war against Hezbollah.
Minutes later,
But what does Donald Trump want from al-Shara? He said that he promised me to help the United States with the case of Lebanon. What does that mean for you?
He wants to stop Benjamin Netanyahu because Netanyahu is saying, I need to defeat Hezbollah and I can't stop. And Donald Trump wants to stop the war because it doesn't suit him to have Benjamin Netanyahu lying on him all the time, telling him Iran is so easy and Hezbollah, I can defeat it. And he tried. He tried and he failed. He has been trying to defeat Hezbollah and to force the armed delivery of Hezbollah to the Israeli or to the Lebanese state. And now he's trying with the Lebanese state, knowing and admitting that the Lebanese army is incapable of disarming Hezbollah. So he's trying just to say, I am in Lebanon according to the request of the Lebanese president, but that doesn't mean he can disarm Hezbollah, and it doesn't mean Syria can disarm Hezbollah. Nevertheless, Donald Trump would like to have another possibility to present to Benjamin Netanyahu saying, well, you failed to disarm Hezbollah, stop your war. Now we have Lebanon on board because we have a president that's very obedient, and he was really elected as president by us, the Americans, to bring him to power so he can normalize with Israel. Give him the chance to do it. You haven't done that for the last year and a half. During the 15 months that you bombed Lebanon, and you did not allow the president who was specifically brought to power to disarm Hezbollah and to have a deal with Israel. Now give him the chance and stop interfering because of the lie Benjamin Netanyahu exerted on Donald Trump, that he felt he was taking around the merry-go-round, and a promenade of 3 days in Venezuela was actually not the same case in Iran as Benjamin Netanyahu promised him.
Elijah, do you think that in the eyes of the United States, we know how they feel to force Yemen or Ansarullah into some sort of submission when they came to power in the initial days or months of the Trump administration? They went to the Red Sea. Then they finally decided that Yemen capitulated, we're going to get out of here. But it seems that they're not following the same sort of curve when it comes to Iran. I don't know if in their mind, in the calculation of Washington, there is a military solution for what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz and against Iran. What is your understanding of their perception? How long are they going to continue this sort of tit for tat? Is that going to be beneficial in their eyes?
You see, covering the Middle East for several decades, there is no military solution for anything. The Americans have tried everywhere, in Afghanistan, in Libya, in Iraq, in Lebanon. In Lebanon, they've tried. 1958, they brought 14,000 of the Marines when President Camille Chamoun ask them to come to renew his mandate. They've tried everything. The President Frangieh and Pierre Gemayel and Camille Chamon brought the Syrians to Lebanon 1976 to fight against the Palestinians and the leftists, and they failed. The Lebanese, again, President Bashir Gemayel, the son of Pierre Gemayel, brought the Israelis in 1982, and again the Israeli failed. So there is no military solution exactly against non-state actors like Hezbollah or like the Ansarullah, that they are in control of half of the state. There is no military solution because they have their legitimacy from the population. They have an embedded sovereignty. It is not like ISIS that occupy part of Iraq and Syria, and they've lost the support of the society, and they failed, and they were easily defeated. So a solution for Ansarullah, Donald Trump is honest when he said to Israel, "I am your best friend." Vance, the vice president, when he said to the Israelis, "You have the only remaining friend." Because Donald Trump, when he arrived to power, he immediately attacked Ansarullah and he failed. After 1 month, he just left. He spent $1 trillion and said, "Okay, goodbye, no deal, nothing." He had enough and he understood that he's not managing, so he left. But the Israelis have been trying also to do that with Hezbollah, and they failed. Then now they've tried with Iran and they failed. Donald Trump saved Israel in Gaza because the whole world, the majority in the world, hate Israel for its action today in Gaza and the genocide they are committing everywhere. So Donald Trump can save Israel and say, "Okay, stop. You can get by peaceful means what you fail to get by military means. Stop your genocide, killing on camera, your soldiers boasting all the genocide and crime they are committing, and I'm going to save you." He established a ceasefire that has never been respected. He did not reconstruct Gaza. The Israelis are refusing to allow the Palestinian government, the new government that is sitting in Cairo and not going to Gaza because he's not allowed to operate in Gaza. Hamas announced that they give up on running Gaza, and yet the Israelis don't want. This is what they are obtaining in time of peace, not war. They had 53% of Gaza, now they have almost 70%. So going to Iran. Now again, Donald Trump is saying to the Israelis, "You failed with the war. I failed with the war. It is not by waging war that we're going to submit Iran. Let's do it differently. And we will not release Iranian assets. We will not release the money for the damage. We will keep the sanction, but we do it gradually when we are more in control." So this is the situation. Military means are never a solution because they've been tried in the Middle East and they failed in Iraq. They failed in 2003. They failed. They created Al-Qaeda in Mesopotamia and in the Levant, ISIS, that turned into ISIS later on. So there is no solution through military means. But if the Americans want to solve the problem with Iran, they need to sit and talk, give the Iranians their money, give them, lift the sanctions that are illegal, and they destroy the well-being of the population, the civilians, and then make sure that they don't stay in an area because there is no need for them to stay in the Middle East. But they can't. This is not the mentality of colonialists.
Here is the new statement, Elijah, from IRGC Navy. And just moments ago, they issued this statement that there is no right for foreigners in this land or in the Strait of Hormuz. The adventures of the American terrorist army and its interference in
with public safety in jeopardy, police executed a precision PIT maneuver.
In designating the routes of passage will not only be met with a strong response, but will also disrupt the gradual process of reopening and seriously endanger the interests of the countries that benefit from the Strait of Hormuz. And this is the announcement that they're basically talking about the U.S. interference could lead to the full closure of the Strait of Hormuz if they want to continue that.
Yes, it is very clear for the Iranians. They will not let go of the Strait of Hormuz, and the Americans will not give the Strait of Hormuz to the Iranians. This is where we are at today. Whatever negotiations are going to happen, as long as the Iranians are saying to